No, I actually joined the call after a long time.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay, we're live. All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on when and where you're watching this Facebook Live. This is the voice and the face of Dr. Olabintan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Livingspring Family Medical Center here in the awesome city of Mansfield, Texas, which is very kind of close to Dallas, where we help our patients live long and well because we believe the quality of life is just as important as the quantity of life. I'm excited today to talk about the topic, Doc, how do I pick the right birth control for me? And I am honored to have our guest, Dr. Toya Luces-Sampson. Doc, thank you for being here. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, for those who are watching who are like, wow, man, I like her hair. Love her hair. Love her vibes. Doc, who are you? Kindly introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Yes, well, you can call me Dr. Toya. I am a board certified OBGYN, and my mission is really to empower women to take charge of their reproductive health so that they can live better lives and, be their own advocates. So I do this through my main platform, which is on TikTok, but my videos are everywhere. And, I just really am passionate about getting us to take charge, especially in this climate that we're in right now.
Now, why do you do what you do? I always like to know, is there a story behind it? Like, why did you choose this line of work?
Yeah, well, I chose to be an OBGYN because I really wanted to educate myself, right? When I was in high school, I, was hearing all of my friends with these theories about our bodies and about sex, and I was just like, this is not right. Like, I don't know, but I know this is not right. So I came at it from a standpoint of I want to educate, and I've been a teacher pretty much all my life.
Mm.
So I chose this field of OBGYN. And then when I got in practice, my patients would always tell me, oh, well, nobody ever explained that to me. And I would really be bothered by that because, again, I'm a teacher at heart, and these are things that people need to know. So I was like,
Mm.
why isn't anybody else taking the time to really explain these things to their patients? So it became very important to me to educate my patients in that formal kind of practice. And then when I left, I said, well, how can I do this on a bigger scale? And that's how I got to TikTok. And that's where I am right now.
Yeah, you should follow her. She's
Yeah.
all over the globe, on different platforms, spreading good news.
Yep.
Um, all right, so Doc, my first question: we're talking birth control pills. Oh, birth control. I'm sorry, not pills. Um, when someone comes to see you, let's say, and says, "Doc, I want to get on something to help prevent pregnancy,"
Mhm.
what are my options? What do you generally say?
Yeah, well, I tell them there are lots of options. And then, I first ask them what their goals are because there are so many options. Everything from, what we call, natural family planning all the way up to sterilization. So you can track your cycles, you can do withdrawal, which I do not recommend because it's very ineffective. You can do barrier contraception like condoms, and then there are the more traditional things that we think about, the pills, the ring, the patch. And
Mhm.
then my favorite would be the longer acting forms of birth control, what we call LOC, so long acting reversible contraception. And that would be the implant that goes into the arm and the IUD. So, there are lots of different options, and it's definitely something to speak to your provider in depth about because there's so many different ways to choose what's right for you.
And I like that. So it all depends on what the client's goals are, what the patient's goals are. So you kind of tailor it based on what their goals are. Now, one of the questions I get, and of course, this conversation we're having medical suggestions. We do recommend that you make an appointment with your OB/GYN, to or family doctor to discuss these options. But one of the common questions I get is like, Doc, I don't want anything foreign. I want the most natural.
Well, the
Um,
most natural thing is for you to get pregnant. So, if we're being honest, right? That's what happens naturally when you have sex. So, no, but I understand that, the idea of hormones is really not yeah, appealing to many people. Some people have had
mm,
really bad reactions. So, it is definitely understandable to want something natural. But the problem is that a lot of natural methods are not that effective. And it's not that effective because we are human, right? So there are perfect use percentages when we come to success rates of any type of birth control, and then there's actual use. And the actual use counts for the human error that comes in with any form that you're using. And it just so happens in natural forms, because it takes training, it takes a lot of awareness that some people may not have. And it's a lot more susceptible to spur of the moment mistakes, right? So if you want to do the fertility awareness method, when your fertile periods are, because even though accidental pregnancies happen all the time, it's actually quite difficult to get pregnant. There's only a few days out of the month where you are quote unquote fertile. But there are changes in your body, changes in your mood, different things like that make sex happen during those times, because again, that's propagation of the species, right? That's what we are naturally meant to do. So it becomes easy, but the timing is very particular. So it requires you to know your cycle. It requires you to have a regular cycle, which a lot of people don't have. It requires you to use condoms or abstain during parts of the month. So it can be difficult for those reasons. And I mentioned withdrawal or coitus interruptus, and a lot of people rely on that, but it works until it doesn't, right? So if you really do not want to get pregnant, it is not something that I would recommend to anyone, because it can have a failure rate of about 22%. So that's to say like 25%, right? So 1 out of 4 women will get pregnant, or people who have a uterus. So it's really not the best. One thing I will mention, there is a newer, kind of think about it as a spermicide that can be considered natural because of the ingredients. It's called Phexi. So it is something that you insert vaginally before sex, and it could be up to 1 hour prior to sex. And it's a gel that you insert, and it basically makes the environment inhospitable to sperm so that you don't get pregnant. So it can be a natural form for people who don't want hormones. But my issue with it is that you need to use one per sexual act, right? So it's easy for you to imagine that if things are exciting, that you may not necessarily use it as is recommended, and then it may not necessarily work. And anything you have to do right before sex tends to be a little bit more ineffective. But it is an option for some people who are diligent about it and really don't want anything with hormones.
Okay. Thank you for going to depth with that. That helps answer a lot of questions. Is there a particular app tracker or fertility awareness method recorder that you recommend?
There really isn't. They're all the same. You can just find one that works, find one that's free. You do not need to pay for an app. I'm big on accessibility, right? So find one that's free, because it is more important for you to know if the information they're giving you is applicable to you. And that's where the cycle regularity comes in, right? So no matter what app you use, if your cycles are not regular, it's not going to work and you're going to get pregnant, right? So it really just depends on you. And if you're not sure, talk to your doctor, pull it up in the office and ask them about it. Ask them if it will work for you, because they're going to know your cycle.
Okay. Now, my next question is, which one do you think is most convenient? Some people are like, I just don't want to, like, and I know, I mean, it sounds like it's unique to the individual, but if someone comes, I just want one that's convenient. I don't have to think about much.
Well, I want to preface it with, I am biased, right? I love IUDs, specifically the Mirena IUD. I'm not getting paid by Mirena, but hey, Organon, if whoever makes Mirena, if you want to pay me, holla at you, girl. But I am biased because of my personal experiences, and it is such a good form of birth control. And any long-term one is going to be convenient because you don't have to think about it. It's in, and then that's it, right? The issue some people have is that it takes a while to get good. You may have irregular bleeding and things up until it makes your period regular, and then your period may go away completely. But it's one of the ones that is almost a guarantee to take away the period or make it lighter. And I just love it. The side effects are scary, and the insertion can be scary as well, especially if you go online. But that is not the majority of cases, and your physician can work with you to make it less uncomfortable. And I just think it's one of the best forms of birth control that's out there.
Yeah, I like it too. Now, and this segues to my next question. We talked about talking to your doctor. So someone was watching who's saying like, "Ah, well, I can't see you where you are. You're
Right.
far. I had to go talk to my doctor." Like, what are questions that I should ask when discussing with my doctor on one to pick
Yeah. So the
situation?
biggest thing I think would be, what are your goals in terms of family planning? And that will help narrow down what type of birth control you are going to opt for, right? So if you're trying to get pregnant in a year or even 6 months, maybe Depo-Provera, which I didn't mention, which is the injection, may not be the best option for you, because out of all the birth controls that we have available, Depo is the only one that may cause a delay to return of fertility, right? So the longer you're on it, the longer that delay may be. So if you really want to get pregnant shortly, that may not be the best option, right? So knowing what your family planning goals are is most important. And then what medical issues do you have that may affect the type of birth
Mm,
control that you choose, right? Do you have issues with your period that may have a secondary benefit, not just birth control, but also helping with your cycle? Are you your personality? Are you going to remember to take pills? Because I know I don't. And that was another reason I like the IUD, right? Because I knew I could not take a pill every day because it would not work, right? So it really has to be personalized to you. And those are some of the questions that you can ask. And one that is also very, very important is, how easily am I switched? Because you may not necessarily like it. And you may want to say, okay, this is something else. I need something else. But if you can't get in for an appointment for a month and you have an IUD, then you're kind of out of luck, because you have to go to the office to have that removed, right? And then another one I think people don't consider is, what is the time frame that I should kind of stick it out for? Because anytime
mm,
you're getting on something new, your body has to get used to it, and there may be an uncomfortable time, even if it's irregular spotting. It may be a little bit of nausea, something like that. A lot of those symptoms go away, and it usually is on the order of 1 to 3 months or 3 cycles. And I usually tell people, just wait, just give it time, be regular with it, because most likely it will get better and you
mm,
will see the benefits, right? So knowing the usual time frame for that, for each type of birth control, is also very important, because you want to be set up for success. You don't want to have this thought that, oh, this is going to be great right away, and then 3 months in you're having irregular bleeding with your Mirena, and you're like, what is going on? Nobody told
mm,
me about this,
mm,
right?
mm.
So those are some questions that you can discuss with your doctor.
Yeah, I love it. I like how you brought in different aspects that sometimes people don't actually think about.
Mhm.
And one of the things I tend to encourage people is to come in and have a discussion, have their questions answered, then decide on what they're going to do maybe that day or schedule if it's a procedure. But I
Yeah.
have someone who's watching who's like, well, I want to do some online research before I kind of know what I want
Yeah.
before I go to my doctor. Do you have any tips on how to do a guided search or research? Because like you said earlier, sometimes what you see on the
Yeah.
internet, bad news sells. And so, any tips, Doc? When you're going to do a guided?
Yeah. My biggest tip would be very careful about who you're taking your advice from. It is difficult because I have not been on the patient side in so long. So I immediately think of the resources that I use, and I think a lot of them are patient facing. So if you search for ACOG, which is our governing body, ACOG, they have patient information and pamphlets and things like that, that go through the different things that this is information that we all have. Um, I would caution against random Google searches. And even though I am on TikTok and I want you to follow me, and the information is there, and you can go to my website and information is there, there is a lot of misinformation and disinformation online, and be very careful people want to scare other people. I don't know why, especially when it comes to birth control, especially when it comes to my field, because there is a long history that some of it is well deserved. People have a lot of trauma. So don't let them put that stuff on you. So if you are getting overwhelmed by what is online, take time to talk to your doc. Schedule a telephone appointment if you don't want to waste time going in and then going back. See if you can get them on the phone to really discuss these things, because it's overwhelming for me sometimes. So I can't imagine for somebody who's just trying to get information for the first time. And if you find a reputable person online who's giving this information, then follow them, like me.
It. I love it. Oh, you're funny. All right, so Doc, this has been awesome, and that leads to my next question. People are wondering, well, I want to watch you. I like how you explain things. I like that you keep it real. Doc, where can people find you? They either have you come on and speak on their platform, to
Yes.
follow you, be mentored by you. Where can you connect with you, Doc?
Yes, you can find me, as I mentioned, on TikTok. This is my primary platform. I am at Dr. Toya OBGYN, but you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at Dr. Toya OBGYN, and my brand new website, drtoyaobgyn.com. I keep it simple, right? So if you just search for Dr. Toya, and that's DrToyaOBGYN.com, you will find me somewhere.
Okay, awesome. And I just put it at the bottom of the screen and in the comment section so people can watch you, they can follow you, they can like you, they can tag you, they can do other things
Yeah.
on the net. But I really appreciate you for coming. Thank you for answering the questions. Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I feel like a celebrity being on Dr. Tolu's platform. I see so many people on here, and now I am.
Yeah,
So happy.
you're funny. Thank you for honoring me with this. And for those of you who are watching live or replay, please share this caring. Kindly forward this to those who could find this useful. You can replay this video as well and share with your friends and friends of friends. And that being said, if you or anyone you know is looking for an awesome, a thorough, and a passionate family physician in the Mansfield, Dallas, Texas area, who has
Oh,
mouthful,
sorry.
I am she.
I was like, sure.
Thank you, Doc. Oh my goodness. This was good. Thank you. All right.
You're
Bye,
welcome.
everyone.